like a bird on a tree. I'm just sitting here.
Good day, good afternoon, good morning, everyone who's joined us today. And as I know, people have joined us from all geographical places, so it's good to welcome you for this special Christmas session. And we've got Inena Idegu Stevenson, who will be sharing on understanding APIs for business analysis. I think it's been a topic that we've been pondering over for many months, but finally, Inena has offered to share on this particular topic. But who's Inena? An accomplished business analyst. I like to talk about her writer side because she writes, and everything she writes, you could easily access and immediately digest the information Inena talks about. So Inena is a good story writer. And when I say story writer, she writes in story formats where anyone can assimilate that. She's also got a good hands-on knowledge in areas of business analysis, and she's into enterprise architecture as well, Six Sigma. And quite recently, she wrote on Six Sigma. So I would encourage you to go to Inena's website. She'll share that and read all the tons of information Inena shares often. But for today, it's all about understanding APIs for business analysis. And I'm so honored to have Inena share this with us. Inena, all the best, and the stage is all yours.
Oh, thank you so much. Like, I'm hearing all these things and I'm like, Jesus, I didn't know it was that way. So that's good news. Right. Hi, everybody. I hope you're having a good day. I'm pretty excited to be leading this session on understanding APIs for business analysis. Just like William mentioned, APIs have seen, or a lot of BAs seem to be curious about APIs. I think that's what pushed and led to me having to discussion on it. Right. So as a little introduction, it's cute. As a little introduction, I'm Nena, just like William said. I'm a BCS and IBA certified business analyst professional. I've been building software for a long time, but then that's because my background is in computing. So it's totally okay if you don't know much about APIs or software development. I have a cheat code because I have a background in computing. That's why that happened. So don't feel bad about that. All right, we can start. But before I actually start, I wanted to apologize beforehand. Now, if you notice on the left-hand side of my screen, I have everyone's pictures up here. So if your name is there, I would likely call your name out and use you as an example, or I may ask you a question. So if you don't want me to do that, just delete your name and hide yourself so I don't find you. I like to have an interactive session, which is why I have to do that. So please accept my apologies beforehand. I know it won't be hard questions. It will literally just be about your day-to-day. So don't worry about that, okay? Also to add, if you've got any questions about the JD, you can wait till the end of the session because that'll just allow.
Okay, while you're in this interview, I'm going.
Okay, that'll just allow. There's a sweetheart talking. All right. That'll just allow for everyone to be able to ask questions at the end or make contributions, suggestions, or comments also at the end of the session. So I'll just try my best to be as quick as possible. I need to start my timer to just keep me together. All right, so let's begin. Good. So this topic, I split it into 3 chapters where I'll talk a little about business and technology, and then I'll talk about APIs, which is the reason why we're here, and then the API specification. Now, the business and technology is just to give us a bit of insight into the relationship between business and technology, while the APIs, obviously, that's the reason why we're here. But I'll try my best to just speak to the BA version, and then we can then talk about how to specify or document APIs. So to begin, right. I'm sure we're all familiar with the fact that there was a technology boom at some point, which is what led a lot of businesses to have to start recruiting developers or building software to aid their businesses, right? Now, for businesses to be able to survive the technology boom, they had to obviously recruit tech experts to build tech systems to allow the businesses to run properly and to make sure that they're part of the new world order. However, these businesses are noticing that the tech budgets that are increasing astronomically, and they couldn't really see any real benefits to the amount of money they were pumping into technology. Can anyone guess why that happened? Now, when it comes to tech experts, because I've worked with them for so long and I actually was a developer at some point, I know that they love technologies. They love to do more innovative things. They don't care actually as much if it fits the business or not. So that's where there's a problem. So the reason why that happens is because tech people will experiment a lot with new technologies, irrespective of whether or not they aligned with the business needs. And to be fair, tech people don't have the skills to elicit requirements and perform environment analysis and try to talk to or manage stakeholders and everything. Their job is just to build a solution or whatever they perceive is a solution. So they really couldn't align with business needs. So an example of that will be, I'm sure you've seen, I'm sure you've never heard of a virtual reality system, a software, virtual reality software in banking. Now, I want if anyone can tell me how to apply virtual reality into banking or into the banking industry, I will owe them dinner. So just wait, just write your answer down and just wait till the end of the session. But to the best of my knowledge, I don't think VR works in the banking industry, but I'm open to learning. So please let me know if you think otherwise. Right. Now, after they noticed all of that problem, they then had to coin a new job role called the business analysis. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. So they then actually coined a new hero that had to come and investigate the business needs and then accurately communicate them to the tech people. And these people were meant to represent the business. So who are these people? They are mediators, people like me. They're your business analysts because that's the title they gave them. Their job was to become the bridge between business and then technology. So I think the first and most important role of a business analyst is to always put the business first and then to ensure that whatever investment is going into technologies would actually impact the business positively. So that's why you keep hearing me tell BAs that your job is to represent the BAs and the business first, not the technology, because that's being handled by competent developers already. So that's the relationship between business and technology. Now, obviously someone's got to build the software that all these businesses need, right? Which is why they started businesses started outsourcing, and then there became a rise of software companies. And then luckily some BAs were able to understand the technical jargon that a lot of the tech people communicated in, and then somehow converted that to English for the business people to now understand, and then fetch the English for the business people and then convert it to technical jargon for the tech people to understand. I'm sure if there's a developer here, I'll probably get bitten up at the end of the session. But the point is, it was always hard to understand technical people, so someone had to do the interpretation. And their job also is mainly to convert or break down the high level requirements that had previously been collected by another BA and then break it down into lower level specifications. I'm sure you're familiar with user stories, and that's a lower level specification because that now goes with an acceptance criteria, and then you're talking directly to the dev team. So that's an example of low level specification. Now, during this conversion to low level specifications that BAs have to do, some BAs then come across technical terminologies such as APIs, which is what brought us to this session today. An API, this simply means application programming interface. But even I never knew that's what it meant. We just called it that all this while. So you don't need to know what it means. You don't need to bother about cramming the meaning of the API of the word API or the acronym API. So that's that. Oh, just before I go to the next slide, I wanted to add. Now, some people actually say that these BAs that do this high-level requirements conversion to low-level specifications, some people refer to these BAs as technical BAs. But I'd like to tell you that that field doesn't exist. It really doesn't. You're still a BA, whether or not you're a technical BA or not BA. Your primary role should always be to rep the business first. So just to let that out. Now, but moving on to the second chapter. well, we'll need to talk about APIs. So before I do that, I'm just going to issue a disclaimer. On a personal level, I don't believe APIs should really matter to a BA. I expect that a BA would leverage on their influencing skills and look for how to just pass the job to someone else to do something like that. So because wanting to get involved with APIs is literally almost like writing code. So I don't see any reason why you should get deeply involved with APIs. The whole point of this session is for me to tell you where you come in, or as a whole, when it comes to APIs, just leave it for the tech people to handle. If you want to code, then you're not a BA anymore. So you just don't get involved in API. I would say that, but then there's a personal disclaimer to you guys. So I'm sure some people still say, oh yeah, I still want to learn about APIs. I want to see, know more about it and everything, which is fine. So I decided to include a snip that I hope you all can see. Can you imagine? I hope you all can see the snip because it's a bit towards the top. So I took this from WorldPay. It's literally one of their API documentation for anyone interested in using their API. And as you can see, all of this here, that's French. That's not English. That's text speak. You don't need to worry about this. So unless you want to get involved in things like this, I don't see any reason why you should want to know or go in depth into APIs. This literally is predominantly owned by the devs or the tech people. So I would advise you just leave it to them to handle. So that's that. To be fair though, you can't actually read it because this is just trying to tell you the token, order description, the amount, currency code, and then the authorization, blah, blah, blah. So you can actually read it and try to understand it, but I'll just say stay clear. Just stop there. So as a BA then, what do you need to know about APIs? That's what I'm going to walk you through now. When you think about APIs, I think you should go with someone. Okay, no. When you think about APIs, I would ask you to think about a cable. So a cable's got two ends, this end and that end, just like this one I put in the picture. Now, if you notice, one of them will obviously, because it's got two ends, one of the ends of the cable will go into a database. So let's just talk hypothetically. This cable is meant to connect to one database, and then the other end of the cable is meant to connect to another database, or we can refer to them as servers rather than databases, or you can refer to them as computers rather than servers, blah, blah, blah. The point is an API is a cable. It connects two things. So just think of an API like a cable, and that's it. Now, to point out, this part of the API, which does the connecting, is called an endpoint. So it means this cable has two endpoints, which means an API has two endpoints as well. As much as an API has two endpoints, whenever they refer to endpoint, whenever you hear the word endpoint, they're referring to just one of the endpoints, and I'll explain what endpoint they're referring to soon. So I hope this is clear. When you think about APIs, just think about a cable, because that's literally what an API is. Its job is just to connect two things and transfer information across the cable. That's that. Another thing I expect a BA to probably be aware of is the mode of communication using an API. So like I put there on the top, an API is literally nothing fancy. It's just two computers that are trying to chat with each other. So you're familiar with the fact that obviously I'm talking to you, so humans talk to humans, right? Humans talk to computers. That's what you did when you pushed the join button to join the session. Now, computers talk to humans as well, which is what this computer is doing to me annoyingly up here. It's talking to me as well. So I think it's only natural to expect computers to also speak to computers on their own without you having to get involved or you having to be the trigger. Computers should be able to talk to each other on their own. So that's the whole concept of APIs. So when you think about the mode of communication, I would say to focus on just these two things. There has to be a request, and there must be a corresponding response. So even if the request didn't go properly, so say the response were to fail when it gets to the database, there still must be a response. So it's a two-way communication that must happen. So it's not like me now talking to you and I'm not hearing any of you talk back to me and I'm just talking like a mad person. It's got nothing to do with that. When it comes to API, when it comes to APIs, there must be a response. So even if it's a fail, there must be a response. Even if it's a pass, there must be a response. That's technically what I need you to take away from this, which means when you're specifying, I would expect that you'd try to specify what the request is and probably guess what the response is. Well, we'll get to that. Just relax. So that's all from this page. Another thing I would expect you to know as a BA is the importance of APIs. Honestly, there are lots of importance, but I like to group them into just two, which is the boundaryless communication. Boundaryless communication means there are no boundaries. I mean, as the word implies, there are no boundaries between communication. This is mostly important for when you're making an API for an external use. So say you want to connect two companies together. On a normal day, it's two companies. There should be boundaries, right? But yeah, that API sort of goes past that boundary and makes it boundaryless. If there are people that are like enterprise architects, they'll be quite familiar with that term. And the second importance is the fact that it makes changes easily. It allows the devs to make changes easily to a system or to a software or to a server, okay, not to a server, to a software. I should stop there. What I mean by making changes easily. Now, there's a concept called monolithic architecture, or a monolith. And then we have the microservices architecture, or microservices. Now, API is literally microservices. Well, I'll explain further in the next page. For now, I wanted to give an example of an API that works, which is what I put there as the timeline refresh on Twitter. So I'm hoping, obviously, I hope a few people use Twitter. If you use Twitter, you notice that there are times where you pull downwards on your screen and then it loads up some of your tweets or some new tweets on your timeline. But then have you noticed there are times when you don't pull downwards and it just tells you that there are more tweets on your timeline? So think about it. How did the computer know to just pull out more tweets and just put on the screen for you to then go look at it? That's an API working. It's no magic. It's literally an API doing its job. The API probably knocked on the server and asked for, oh yeah, are there more tweets for me to display on Nenna's Twitter timeline? And then the server responded, I was like, right, actually two people just tweeted, now take them. So that's kind of like what happened. My interface talked to the server and that's literally it. So now in my mind, I'm like, oh, I didn't push a button, that just happened. No, it's not magic, it's literally just API. So stop. Okay, I need to take this out. Oh, I can. I'll put it here. Cool. Move this out too. Now, the final thing I'll probably expect a BA to be aware of, a few terminologies. So when you're talking to the devs, they might throw a few words at you to scare you away. Don't run away. So I'm going to explain a few of them. The first word is the word service. Now, service literally means APIs. It literally means interfaces. They're all used interchangeably. It's just the same thing. It's just APIs. So when they say a service, now, rather than me calling it an address API, I can call it an address service. Rather than me calling it a vehicle API, I'll just call it a vehicle service. That's basically what it is. Whatever that one API is doing, that thing's called a service. So it's the same thing. Don't run away. The second one is the monolith I mentioned. So now, what I put there as a description of a monolith is if you lose your house key, it means you can't use the toilet. Everyone knows that. So if right now you don't have your house keys, it means you can't go into the toilet, which means you're probably stuck outside your door screaming for your life or something. I don't know. Yeah, so that's what monolith is. An example in real life or in computing of what a monolith is would I say in the olden days, whenever they built computers, the database sat literally behind the interface. That was a monolith. Now, the problem with monoliths is that if there's a problem with probably one button on the user interface, you then have the developers will probably have a meltdown because they have to go through every single button, every single line of code to be able to find out what the problem is and fix it. So monoliths were really difficult. Like you'd actually have devs submitting their resignation when they're being told to work on a legacy system because you're like, I'm not doing this. I wasn't born for this. Like I've seen that happen. So yeah. And then most legacy systems are monoliths, which is why no one wants to touch it. I'm sure you're quite familiar with that. You've seen that in your day-to-day at work. So that's an example of a monolith. Then we have the microservices. Now, the example I gave is like HSBC, the big branch HSBC, having little branches scattered around the whole of the UK, rather than having just one huge branch in London. So think about the line or the queue of people that need to deposit if HSBC had just one branch. Just think about it. But no, they were smart, and then they decided to make lots of little microservices outside the branch to then serve people. So that's the concept of microservices, just little banks outside. Now, this HSBC example doesn't really do it justice because the little branches would still do the same thing the HSBC branch would do, right? So a better example is, or when it comes to microservices, each and every branch would do a different thing. That's the whole point of it. Your hand does a different thing than your leg does. I mean, there's some people that probably have them doing the same things, but we're not going to go into that. So your hand does something different compared to what your head does. That's microservices. They're all doing different things, but then all coming together and working together as a team. That's microservices. And then also using the toilet analogy, it could be you going into your house, and if you've lost your house keys, you're unbothered because you know you've got a toilet outside your house, so you're just going to use it. That's it. Yeah, so microservices is actually API. That is, microservices have brought about the use of APIs. That's that. Now, I explained endpoint previously. Endpoint is yeah, it's just the interface. It's literally that other connection that goes outside, or it's exposed for other people to use. So an example of an endpoint is this. They mostly come with slashes, so it just looks like this. You don't need to worry about that. It's more for the devs. We've got the methods. We've got the get, post, put, delete. Probably more. These are the ones I know about. These are API address codes. By dress codes, they are actually dress codes. I'm not joking about that. So an API, so take yourself as a security guard at a restaurant. If you see someone wearing a white hat and a white dress, you'd be like, oh, that's a chef. And then if you see someone wearing a red, sort of like a red skirt, you think that that's the waiter and you let them in, right? But if you see someone wearing maybe gold shoes and everything, they look like visitors. Now, you'd know not to let the visitors go into the kitchen because you're not meant to be there. That's literally what a method is. It just uses these codes to know who to let to where. That's kind of like it. Then the word call is just the ability for an API to interact. So it's picking up the phone, dialing a number, reaching a receiver and asking what the weather is like, and then hanging up to then inform you, oh, it's raining outside, and then I don't go out. So that's the call. The call is literally just the whole process of making a request and then getting the response. Then the final one is the integration, the word integration. Integration is just when, you can do all that. Integration is just literally putting one API. So remember the analogy of the cable. When you put that other end of the cable, the exposed end of the cable into another database, that's integration. That's just where the word came from. When you're merging, when you're trying to use a vendor's API, you're trying to integrate with your services. That's it. Ooh, okay, take a breath now. Now, our final chapter is the specification chapter. If you notice, I put a slash in it and wrote documentation. We'll find out why. So now, reason I put documentation and not specifications, because I don't agree you need to specify an API. So the same way you write user stories to specify a requirement, you don't actually need to specify an API. But then even with the term documentation, documentation is when you need to probably put the APIs in a book. So say, just like you document your user stories, you don't need to document APIs. This is a thing for the devs. The creation, the documentation, the manipulations, all done by the devs. Honestly, doesn't concern you at all. The most you can do as a BA is probably encourage them to use so there's some documentation technologies like Swagger, and then we've got, I think Smart Beer is one. You've even got Notepad. You've even got a web page. So that's probably all you can do. You can just tell them, right, why don't you guys use Swagger to store your endpoints? Or probably just don't, just leave them to do your thing. Just don't, because if I ever told them to do things, they'll probably kill me. So just avoid fights with the devs. Now, so now that you've said all of these things, where then do I come in as a BA to help the devs? Right. whenever APIs are being discussed, the likelihood that the conversation would include two sets of developers, one from the creator company, who will be the vendor or supplier, and then one from the borrower company, which is your company trying to borrow or use the service. There will always be devs in these two places. So all you have to do, and this is a tip really, lock them up in a room and throw the key away and just don't bother again. That will just get the job. They will sort themselves out, don't worry. But please don't learn bad habits from me. Don't say, Nana told you to do that. I don't have jobs for BAs. Please don't. Right. So obviously I was joking when I said that. I wasn't actually joking, but I'd say I was joking. So normally, like I said, an API, so the thing is, in truth, an API project is not a standalone project. It only happens when there's a software being built. It comes up when the software is being built. So you don't, no one builds an API on its own, except if you're a creator. So we'll get to that. Now, if since APIs are not a standalone project, normally these are things that are being done by the devs themselves. They know building APIs makes their work easy because say an interface has 10 APIs and one API then gets faulty, all they have to do is delete or fix that particular API rather than having to unscrew the server and try to find out what's going on, look at the code and look for what's going on. They know it's the best practice way for devs to work. So they would always make APIs for in-house projects. Now, if your company is not creating the API, it means you're a borrower. And then if you're a borrower, life is easy for you because all you have to do, like I said, is just lock the two of them in the room. However, so all you have to do if you're a borrower is to ask the creators or the vendors to send you a link to their documentation, and then you just hand this over to the devs. Case closed. Don't turn your phone off. Just don't. Yeah, well, I would do that, but don't turn your phone off. So, however, if you work for a company that is a creator, now, like I mentioned, I'm not talking about the in-house services that your devs do on a normal day for the software they make, where they're building APIs to make their lives easy. I'm talking about actually creating an API that you then expose to other people to come and borrow, just like WordPay did. So if you're working for a company that is a creator, right, I'll try my best to explain in the following slides what you're meant to do. But if you want more information, I've been dreaming about going to Mars. So I'm just looking for anyone who's going to buy me a jet. It's not that expensive. All of you are BAs, you're more than capable. So yeah, I'm not asking for too much. Now, okay. If you're a creator, what do you do? So I decided to talk a bit about Sade. So Sade is my figurative friend I'm going to use to talk. So Sade is like Arinze, or like I saw Obi, I saw a few other participants. I'm sorry, I can't actually check through for the names now. So Sade is just a normal person. She attended a British high school in Cambridge, and while passing through her years of studies, she then she created a spreadsheet because she was a clever girl. In this spreadsheet, she put in the subject she was taught per the year, and then included the names of the teachers and their birthdays, favorite gift, favorite call. She just literally put descriptions of the teachers in her spreadsheet. Now, after 6 years of high school, Shadi graduated, obviously. She's a smart girl, like I said. But then she graduated with her classmates as well. And then her classmates wanted to get references from the teachers, but they couldn't actually remember the names. They were actually always describing the teachers and stuff. So now Shadi is like, you know what, I can fix this for you. And then Shadi brings out her spreadsheet to help her classmate because she's a lovely girl too. And then she tells her classmate, what you do is email me the year and the subject, and then I'll respond with data concerning that year and that subject. So she's technically saying, right, if you tell me the subject that the teacher taught and the year they taught, I can actually go search my spreadsheet and then come back to you. So, I mean, the reason she didn't ask about the names is because obviously they couldn't remember teachers' names, right? So, my fellow people, Shadi just created a service. It means Shadi just created an API. What she did is okay, we'll find out what she did. Now, I mean, obviously this is manual because they have to send her an email and she has to read the email and she has to do the search on the spreadsheet. I can't imagine how painful that would be. But that's literally in junior baby terms, that's an API, but it's manual. Now, Shadi is a smart girl, like I said, and then she's working with a smart BA like me. Yeah, I have to praise myself here. So then I then tell Shade, you know what, we can do this where you can go on vacation, you don't need to sit on your computer, and then create an app where all they have to put in the app is a year and a subject. And when they hit the button, it then brings a response that they were looking for. So the app's name is Find Your Teachers. The request obviously will be year and subject, and then the response will be the teacher's name, year, subject, favorite gifts, location, favorite color, all those things. If you have a Nigerian lecturer, you need to know these things when you need a reference. Yeah, sorry I said that. I'll just move on now. Oh, by the way, I didn't introduce Shadi to you. This is her. Very pretty girl. She's really lovely. I met her in real life, to be fair. Not her. I met Shadi in real life. So this is Shadi anyway. Now, I'm going to move this a bit so everyone can see that. Can everyone see what's at the bottom here? If you get this question right, I will owe you a Starbucks coffee after lockdown. Can anyone tell me where the BA came in? Or could have come in this story? Just put your answers down. Should they put your answers down? Let me see. I don't know what's in the next slide. I can't remember. But let me see how long ago. So you know what? I'll take a break now. Actually, I want to hear. Does anyone know where the BA came in this story? Okay, so I'm looking at answers to see. I'm looking at the chat to see if anyone's answered. I'll just give it one more minute and then I'll carry on. Remember, Starbucks. Oh, Ife. So true, I'm actually going to have to pay for someone's coffee. But what details, Ife? Oh, actually, that's not quite correct. Okay, so by identifying the users and communicates, you're a smart person, Shina. The birthday name is correct. That's cool. That's really cool. That's cool. So the reason why it was really easy Ife, okay, let me see. Nicknames. Using the spreadsheet. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. All right, thank you so much, everyone. If I did answer, I wouldn't say it's a correct one. So I'll say maybe I owe Ife and Shina, because Shina actually gave me the correct answers. I wanted the words of what she actually did. I'm really sorry I can't really look at more. I'll just carry on quickly here. So everyone's correct. Actually, Sade is a BA. And because Sade is a BA, she focused on the pain points and not the actual technology. She was focused on how do I solve this problem for these people? Like, that was why she built a spreadsheet in the first place. Look, I wouldn't say, obviously someone in high school isn't a BA, but I'm just saying that's the mindset a BA should have. Your job should be to always focus on pain points and needs and opportunities, not the technology, which is why I don't subscribe to people being carried away by APIs, because that's you now walking into uncharted waters. If you start focusing on the technologies, you then forget what you're meant to do in the first place as a BA. So, well, I'm really happy people got it. I didn't expect anyone to get it right, because I thought you guys would get carried away with the API thing, but that's good. So just move to the next page. So that's what I was saying here. That when a BA focuses on the details and the technology, they then lose sight of the big picture. They struggle to communicate the high level information that actually matters, because that's the reason you're employed, not to do the dev's work. That's kind of like what you've been meant to do. So as a BA, I would encourage that what you should focus on is what information do I need to collect to make this software work? What information do we need to send as a request? What information do we need as a response? And if I'm being honest, some BAs don't know that that's what they're meant to do when it comes to APIs. They get lost in the, oh my God, this is a foreign language. I don't know. You don't need to stress. And if I'm being honest, if you speak to a dev and be like, what do you want me to do? Where do you want me to come in? What do you need my help for? What do you want me to do as a BA? They would actually tell you. If we had devs here, they would have pointed out the answer probably faster than Ife and Shina did, because they know where they need the BAs to come in. So that's kind of like the thing. So another problem with focusing on the technology is that you lose sight of the needs, problems, opportunities that you were in the first place employed to identify. So you then go from panicking about the fact that, okay, you created an online application and then for some weird reason, some users are unable to submit their online application after filling the form. You go from panicking about the fact that your users are stranded to panicking about the submit button. Now, let me tell you what BAs do these days. if a BA walked into the office and then she hears that, oh, the online applications having problems, users can use the submit button or they can submit online, blah, blah, blah. BAs now, a good BA will run over to the dev team and start smashing things. How dare you ruin my system, blah, 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 and stuff. And then after that, they would probably have their refinement meetings, and then you're hearing terminologies like, oh, it's not part of the MVP, or we need to have it in the next release, blah, blah, blah. And you probably spend 2 days trying to negotiate with the devs to then put it in the next release, make sure it's delivered ASAP. And then the devs will be kicking back, oh no, fire brigade approach, oh my God. I hate that I know all of this, but that really would be what a good BA would do. However, an exceptional BA, who knows what an exceptional BA would do? Let me see. I wanted to stop at 12:35. So I'm already at the end. How they relate to each other, that's good. I'll give 1 more minute. Or I'll just say the answer. So what an exceptional BA would do is just pause and be like, right, my customers or my users are stranded at the moment. What we'll do is, admin, can you send an email to everyone and tell them to print out the application form? In that email, include a free post so they can now print it out and then send it over to us free of charge. And then please send our apologies. That would be the first thing you would do as a BA. Because remember, your job is the business first. The business needs to keep going whether or not technology is there. So after doing that, telling admin what to do, you can then run over to the tech people and start smashing things. You can do that. So that's the answer. I think this is, oh yeah, I made it to the end of 35. That's good. So I didn't talk a lot about APIs, and I do sincerely apologize to everyone that probably expected more than this. But the reason I did is because I have a blog, some blog posts that would tell you how to specify. So I put, if you want to specify, you can go over to this link. It's there on my website. If you want to know more about APIs and the basics there, 1 and 2, that's all you need to know as a BA, I think, and I hope. Other books I've read, I just threw in books because these are the books I have at home. I can't remember if there's anything concerning, no, I don't think there's anything concerning APIs there, but then there's good reason why nothing concerning APIs are in these books, because you're a business analyst, not a tech person. So that's that. Now I can stop. And I'm back, everybody. Feel free, throw your questions. Oh, William, I can't hear you. Or I can read your lips.
All right. Thank you so much, Inena. That was insightful, thoughtful, and a story we would relate to. I know how to treat some devs now. I've picked the good, the bad, and everything. So thanks for teaching me all. Any questions for Inena based on what you've heard so far? It's a very great session, and thanks so much for sharing on understanding APIs. You asked a question about virtual reality.
Oh yeah, I did. I'm very scared of you people because you got the other question I asked right. So I'm scared that someone might actually know a virtual reality application in the banking industry. Does anyone know? Nobody. Good. So now, if anyone gets the answer right, I'll buy you a Bentley.
Oh, you've dared someone. I know someone who would know. Has chosen not to talk.
I enjoy it. Thank you so much, everyone. Location services, virtual banking assistance. Well, you don't.
Nana, just to remind you, there's someone here who's working on virtual reality for PhD. He's chosen not to talk.
I take back the Bentley. Let me take it back first. Okay, no, but I'm kidding. I don't think there's actually that application, to the best of my knowledge, because I actually did VRT in school. So I'm like, to the best of my knowledge, there's no application in the banking industry. But I actually want to hear some chatbots. Chatbots is more like AI. So thanks, Esosa. I saw another answer. Location services. Location services can be done. It's more, your phone has location services. You don't need virtual reality for that. VR and AI. VR. So let me just remind you what VR is. You know the thing where you wear the Google, the glasses to now see stuff and then pretend you're in it. So virtual reality is mostly used in medicine because they want to see the human body and practice with it. So how is that going to be applied in the banking industry? That's a fair point. Training the staff. Okay, cool. Okay. Let me reflect on that. I'm sure there's a shortcut to that without having to go into VR. So imagine if you had to spend so much money to just train your staff in VR. Is that really realistic? But Shelley, yeah, you got it right. There's an atom of truth there. So, Paul, thank you so much, everyone, for contributing. I really enjoyed this. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it this much, but thank you. I do appreciate that. You can put your answers, keep your answers coming. I really want to learn. VR in banking will be used to understand consumer behavior. But you can just go out and you can send out questionnaires. Why spend money on the VR to do that? Well, that's a good point. That's a good point. Anyway, so I'm going to stop here. If people have questions, please feel free to ask. I was hoping I was going to confuse you, so you spend the remaining 10 minutes asking me questions. This is not a good thing, understanding consumers' behavior.
Yeah, we've got Yemi who would like to ask a question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Yemi.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see the hand.
Yeah, hi, Nena.
Yeah.
The session has been brilliant, well marshaled by you, and I've derived a lot of benefit from being on this session. I have a quick question to ask. In your experience, has a BA ever been involved in API testing, or is that more of like a tester's role and responsibility?
So let me be honest with what's going on in the industry now. So, I mean, put yourself in a small company's shoes, right? They've employed someone that says you're a technical BA. I say I'm a technical BA a lot of times, but then that's because it's just fancy to say that. There's nothing like that. So, but then someone says you're a technical BA, rather than you employing a QA, why don't you just use the technical person to do the API testing? Do you get? That's kind of like why they're doing that. But in truth, like now with what I know, if you want to learn, of course, join them to do the API testing. But to be honest, like I said, I don't think there's no mixture. API doesn't come into business analysis. So if I were put in that shoes, I've never tested an API, even as a technical BA. I've never done that. So whenever they're like, oh, we need people to test, I'm like out the door like that. You just see a shaped person through the wall. I don't get involved in that. That really should be done by QA. And then the reason I'd say it should be done by QA is because if you make mistakes, you would get held responsible for it. But then if the QA makes mistakes, they would now be held responsible. And a final answer to your question is, what time do you even have to be testing the API? What time? You should be testing the software to make sure your requirements stated have met you should be testing the software to tick off the requirements that you stated in the first place to say, oh yeah, the devs did a good job. Oh no, they didn't do this one properly. That's what you're meant to be doing. So what time do you even have to help the QA people? So no, please, the answer, I would say no.
Okay, so stand firm when you need to.
If you want to learn, join them, but I would say you shouldn't, because you would get pulled into politics. Please avoid it.
Okay, thank you very much, Nena. Thank you.
I got a question for you, Nena. I tapped it already. So when you did say that the BA does not have work much to do on the APIs, what about the MVPs? Like in my workplace, it's the BA who goes to get the MVP. And also in terms of the schema or the contracts that they use or the swagger, it is this BA's job to interpret what every field in that swagger means in our own in our own system, basically. So what you expect in that field to show in the response, and each of those, what they're supposed to mean for each of
that's correct. I would say a BA comes in. So truly, a BA's job is the MVP. So it's a mixture of the BA and the product owner. Whoever can do, so depending on if you guys are doing waterfall or agile.
We use waterfall, but our developer uses agile. So it's like, usually we do it like a agile project.
Yeah, that's fine. So I was going to actually say that depending on what a waterfall, then it'll be BOPO. So if a BA is the one that makes the MVP, the way you make the MVP is by playing with people to know what they love the most, because that will not be the first set of things you release, and to keep the customers happy while you then go and create the other things. So that's the MVP. You're right about probably I would say that's sketchy. So the part about understanding the documentation that's coming from the vendor and trying to interpret how the fields are and everything to the other tech people. Now, why I would say to not bother doing that. Now, the documentation that came in is already in Swagger. Like, lock them into a room and tell them to read the documentation themselves. You don't need to do that. That's just quite redundant. So you're copying what they already would see when they look at the APIs to do the connection. They would see it already. So unless if there is need to maybe interpret some of the fields into what the users, what your stakeholders want. So say there's a field in an API called date of birth, something. Oh yeah, now that's another place BA is coming. Oh my God, I forgot that. The business rules. But if you read my blog, you
we
see
do
it.
the business rules
Yeah.
as well, and that's what we do. We interpret the Swagger to the description to the business rules.
That's correct. So now BA is coming with the business rules where, say, the business doesn't want under 18s to get involved in things. They don't want older people to get involved in things. That is a business rule. You now need to find that out. Just give the document. You don't have to learn to read it yourself. Give the document to the tech people to read and tell you where it is, and they can change it. Or if you're the one creating, you find out that your stakeholders actually want the business rules to be implemented, and then you inform the tech people. I'd rather you just don't get involved. Just let them do it. They're paid a lot of money. Let them do their work. So
Thanks, Nana.
you're welcome, Maria. But yeah, you're doing the right thing. Yeah. If you have time for that. So no other person. Okay.
Do we have a last question or two more questions for Inena?
Yes, I have a question. What is Swagger?
It's Swagger is just a documentation. So if you can just Google.
Yeah, I've actually Googled, but I know a lot of people will be wondering what is Swagger.
It's the latest way to document APIs. It's literally just so every company or every software development would have, it's just like a Facebook page or GitHub. So your Facebook page would have your pictures and have your likes or dislikes, all these things. So Swagger that's what Swagger is for devs. That's where they put their APIs and expose it so that people can then be like, right, I've been looking for an API that can check the whole world's temperature and give me the average. They will now find your API that does that and then contact you and be like, how much do you want? Yeah, you make money from it. So that's what Swagger is for. It's just a place that they expose. And then to test it, you then use Postman to test it, like Yemi was asking for. Don't get it.
Okay. Thank you.
So is Swagger an app or a website?
I think it's both. Yeah, what is Facebook an app or a website? That's the answer. So whatever Facebook is,
It's both.
Swagger is. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. It was a report.
And add to that, Nana, I think in terms of Swagger, it's sometimes very similar to the schema as well. It kind of tells you what each and every field in that API means and what it can do, what would be, and all those messages. I mean, what basically that API is supposed to expose and do.
That's true. That's true. So, which is why, if you notice in my document where I said you can probably tell your devs to document it in Swagger, is because Swagger is like, it's quite English friendly. So you can look at it and quite understand what's going on as a BA. But again, it's not something I would tell a BA to get involved in unless you're curious. You can then say, you people please move to Swagger so at least I can understand the speak you speak, something like that. So yeah, that's it. So I think that'll be everyone. I was going to end with a final. So something happened yesterday. I'm working with some devs on an app, and then they told me, okay, I told them I wanted a user to be able to. Lola, do you have a question? Oh, okay, no. So I told them I wanted the users to be able to pick the country they're in, and then when putting your bank details, they can then the bank details should correspond with the country. So what that means is, I'm sure some of you are Nigerians, I'm just guessing, you'd be familiar that in Nigeria, when you're trying to pay money into a bank, you use bank account name, bank account number, and then you use you use the bank name, account number, and account name to pay money. But that's different when you live in the UK. You use sort code, and you don't even need the name nowadays. So you use sort code and account number, right? So That's what I told the devs to do. Do you know what these humans did to me? They're like, right, Nana, there's no API that exists to do that. So you go find out all the countries in the world and your banking details. I've been in shock since yesterday. I've still not recovered from the audacity. Like, seriously. But then that's my work because someone hasn't done that API yet, it seems. But we'll get through. That's fine. So those are the kind of times BAs come in. Yeah.
Fantastic, Inena. We've had a lot of chats, a lot of conversations, and wow, you've made us feel very comfortable.
That's good.
Throughout this entire session. And I think it would be a good thing if we could all unmute ourselves and give Inena a big thumbs up, and we'll take a group picture, which Inena would always sign and remember. We'll put it on LinkedIn, definitely. Please, let's all put up our cameras. We know we're feeling lonely here. Inena and I have felt lonely throughout the session, but we want to thank you for joining. So if you put your cameras up, we'll take a group picture, and Inena will sign it for the year. And we've had a really, really lovely time with Inena. Thank you again, and we look forward to having you for another session.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure hosting
Get me in space.
everyone who's joined. So let's give Inena.
There's no COVID here.
Great outdoors.
Thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy the
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you. Let's have a wonderful day and see you all.
Thanks, William.
Thank you, Nana. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.